Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I've got Josh Schertz with me. Josh, how you doing?
Doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for hosting us in this beautiful office.
Yeah, this is about as good an office as there is in college basketball. I've been pretty lucky. You know, I officed Lincoln Memorial, had an incredible floor to ceiling window overlooking the mountains. Here, about as good as it gets. The Arch downtown. When they renovated this place. Chris May, Janet Oberly. I think Janet had a lot of the hand in terms of, the design of it, and man, did they get it right in every area. I mean, the bells, whistles, the touches, the way this place looks from top to bottom, all three levels, unbelievable. And this office, pretty incredible to walk in here every day.
It is very cool.
It's a place to look out to.
So let's talk about first thing I always do on the podcast is what's helped make you the man you are today. So I think that's where we'd like to start.
Yeah, I think, like everybody, you're a product of your experiences, everything you go through in life, I think impacts you, develops you, or teaches you in certain ways. And, I grew up a tennis player, didn't really do anything with basketball, was a for my age, a pretty good tennis player.
I think you're being humble. You're really good based on the research that I saw.
I was a good tennis player young. I think, as everybody got older and grew, I didn't. And, my biggest skill when I was a young player was I was willing to stay out there all day. I might play a match and win, 6-3, 6-3, but I might be out there 2.5 hours to do it. I was a backboard. And then as we got older and guys got bigger, they could hit through that. And, but I love to compete at an early age. I kind of got to where I just, competition, I really enjoyed it. I loved watching all of the sports because I was a tennis player and there was concerns of injuries. I couldn't play other sports. But I really enjoyed watching, football, basketball, all the other sports. And, I played tennis up till I was in my mid-teens. And then, obviously I stopped playing. And I was able to, I eventually kind of fell into basketball. And, that was for me a 180 because tennis is an individual sport. There's no timeouts. There's no subs. If you're having a bad day, it's not like, hey, we're going to pull you out. You're having there's nobody to save you out there. You get out, you compete, but and you have a team around you, coaches and physios and different people. But end of the day, you're out there by yourself and you have to figure things out. And basketball was so different because, you were part of a team and I had never felt that or experienced that. The part that I liked early on as I just learned how to play was, I had this, spent all this time at tennis. And so there was, when I stopped playing, there was this huge void of like, what am I going to do? And basketball was cool because you just needed a ball in a basket. And, I was able to, get out and shoot. And there was some hand-eye coordination stuff that translated over. And then eventually I started to teach myself how to play. I started playing 5-on-5 and just, the opportunity, kind of fell into playing in college and, got really lucky. Jack Martin up in County College of Morris, gave me a scholarship to play junior college and went up there, played on a really good team. I was part of it. I don't know how much I played, but I was in the rotation, but not a starter. Went to an Elite Eight in junior college, and then went and played NAIA. And I was never a great player, but I loved playing. And it was you're shaped by your experiences. I had like I said, my childhood was unique in a lot of different ways, and that's kind of been covered. But I had a lot where I learned on my own, and I didn't necessarily have two parents that were there, kind of teaching me the ropes. I figured out a lot of things through trial and error, a lot of things on my own, and but at the end of the day, I had I've always said, like, reflecting back, I probably don't wish my childhood on anybody else, but I'm also incredibly grateful for it because I think it gave me an ability to not be judgmental, to have a pretty wide bandwidth in terms of my worldview. I think so many people are myopic and, they see things through their own lens. And then if it's not exactly lines up with what their worldview is, they can't, meet people where they are. I think it's allowed me to coach a lot of different players, have compassion for people, be able to, again, not be judgmental, but to be, curious to learn about people, to figure out who they are, where they are, and try to meet them where they are, and understand, that people's, station in life, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to end up that way. I was 16. I was a high school dropout. I was not living at home. I was living with friends, sleeping on couches, sleeping in school bathrooms. And, I didn't get a high school degree. I got a GED. So you probably wouldn't have foresaw that, well, he's going to wind up coaching basketball or whatever. So I think all those experiences help give me maybe, like I said, a deeper appreciation of, all the things that go into to somebody's life. And like I said, has hopefully made me better coach, better father, better man. A lot of things I learned, like I said, through trial and error or what not to do. And I try to take those lessons. There's an old saying, you can't get wise on another man's experience, but I do think you can. I think you can learn what not to do, or things you went through, whether I was as a player when I was coached, that I didn't like that, or as a son with my parent, the father or mother, I didn't like that, or whatever. And I've tried to take those things and I guess reverse engineer them into how I coach, and how I parent and those things. And I think in some way, coaching, has given me a chance to, because if you do it right, it's kind of like being a step parent. I always say, if you coach and do it correctly, you learn to love and care for kids that are not biologically yours, like they're biologically yours, and maybe a chance for me in some way to right the wrongs of, in my mind at least, of kind of how I grew up, and be the type of step parent or coach that I wanted to have.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And talk about the mindset. I've heard you talk about the beginner mindset and things like that, but even the mindset, because it could have gone one of two different ways. You're homeless, high school dropout. We've heard the stories, right? Those people that maybe didn't go to the path that you went and made something of yourself. What do you think it was about that for you?
Well, I think I had, a grandfather that intervened and really tried to pour into me. I think it showed me the power of somebody believing in you when there's not maybe reason to believe in you. It wasn't like my life was in a great state. And I think my grandfather's influence of like, hey, we're going to take him in, give him a home, give him somewhere where he can lay his head at night and know, he can stay here. He got me going to night school to get my GED. I was working. I wasn't going to school. He would take me back and forth to school every night. And, I'd go in there for a couple hours, and then he would take me home. I think that was enormous for me, his belief in me. And I think that's something that, I've seen that in other people, where man, just letting somebody know you care, letting somebody know that you're there for them, letting them know that you believe in them, can really help people to elevate above their circumstances. And, he had me think a lot about, what I want my life to be like. And, and I thought it was, that piece was huge. I don't think I make it out, or I know I don't make it out without his intervention. And so I'm able to, and I'm able to, like I said, have, when I talk to a kid or whatever, a lot of things that they've, I'm always appreciative when guys have had great home lives. Because I don't want to make it like, mine wasn't ideal, but there was times where it was very good, and I would, it wasn't like it was all bad. But you're always appreciative when guys, our players have two great parents, and they're super invested and involved and supportive and all that. And then, but when guys don't have that, a lot of the things they've been through, I've experienced. And so, like I said, I think it's given me, it just gives me an ability to relate to what somebody's going through. And again, because I've probably experienced a lot, probably my bandwidth of how I can relate to people, or at least the bandwidth of people I can relate to is greater than it had been if I had this life where it was really, pretty linear and straightforward. I had two parents that were there, and every step of the way kind of guiding me. And so I think it's, hopefully helped, at least the way I view it, make me a better coach, make me a better husband, make me a better father than maybe what I had as an example growing up.
That's great. Talk about this, the Kaizen. I've heard you talk about that. I've heard that from a business setting before. Yep. Explain that to the listeners and what it means to you and how you put that in your culture.
Yeah, I think it's the base of everything we do. I think every organization has to have, principles and standards and values that can ground it through the ups and downs of corporate America, or certainly sports, where the feedback is immediate. And as we all know, it's not like you're getting quarterly reports like you are in corporate America. You're getting immediate feedback 30 sometimes a year, and either the sky is falling or you've conquered it all. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you have to have principles, standards, values to keep you grounded through those ups and downs. And Kaizen was something when I first got into coaching, I really I always said, I wanted my teams, if I could be known for one thing, it'd be to embrace the growth process. I was really a believer from my own experiences that being so outcome driven and focusing so much on results put incredible pressure on people, created anxiety, and that when you put expectations and you put a focus on just getting to the outcome, it's hard to perform well. Because you're filled with anxiety, the pressure. No one plays well or performs well with the weight of the world on their shoulders. So, I wanted our teams to be known for embracing the growth process. Well, everybody has their cool things. Nick Saban has the process, and Bill Belichick has do your job, and Steve Kerr had strength in numbers, and everybody these cool slogans. And I didn't have anything like embrace the growth process is not a cool slogan. I was reading a book or a business article on Toyota, and they talked about this term Kaizen, and it basically means a commitment to continual improvement, which is everything that, to me, I believe in. So I was at LMU at the time. I was still pretty early in my head coaching career, and I really took that and ran with it. That's exactly what I want our program to be about. And so the way we frame it to our guys, it's a relentless pursuit of progress together. We are relentlessly pursuing progress. How can we get better? How do we, as an organization, how do we grow and learn from every experience? So we play a game. We're going to win or lose. Based on that result, fans, media, people around are going to react in either we're awesome or we stink. And that's the nature of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the way, we talk a lot about competitors' mindset, observers' mindset. Observers can have that mindset. You can overreact to every result. Right. Internally, how do we strip the emotion away from the result? Whether we won or we lost. Take the emotion out. How do we grow and learn from the experience we just had? How do we apply those lessons and move forward and come back to work and get better the next day? Yes. And so that's individually. You scored 30, great. Where did you do well? Where did you make mistakes? 'Cause I've never played a game where we won and there weren't things that were good and bad. Sure. And I've never played a game where we lost and there wasn't anything good. Or so it's never been like we win, it was all great. We lose, it was all terrible. There's always a mixture of both. And so how do we learn? How do we apply those lessons? How do we come back and get better the next day? And how do we keep just hammering at that and let all the noise around us, kind of fade in the background, and then focus internally on that, because that gives you the best chance. The reality is, if you've won 10 games in a row and you're just rolling, the key to winning number 11 is to come in, grow and learn from the experience, try to get better that day, have unbelievable detailed preparation and focus on what you got to do to get better so you can prepare to play as well as you can in game 11. And if you lost 10 in a row, the key to stopping that is exactly the same as it would be to keep it going. It never really changes a lot, and so to me, that's a very fulfilling way to focus. And you just focus on how do we continue to grow? How do we take the experience and make us better? Can we continue to get better while we're winning? Can we never waste a failure? When we do come up short, why? When we did win, what did we do well? What didn't we do well? Same thing when we lose. And then how do we apply those lessons, come back to work, get better, pursue progress, try to get better every single day, and then just see where that takes us.
And that's true in sports and business, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think the same thing. In wealth management, we talk about emotions of fear and greed, right? And we got to strip those things out, stick to a process.
Yeah, because you're ultimately, if you don't have a process or print, you're going to, we talk about our program, calm endurance. That's what we call it. And calm endurance to me is not riding the roller coaster.
Yeah.
You know, you should come to a practice and not know if we're 12-0, 0-12, 7-5, 5-7. We shouldn't be dictated by our emotions. You have to have the calm endurance to be able to handle success, handle failure, learn from it, and then move forward. Take the lessons. It takes humility to take the lessons. It takes self-awareness to look at. When you play well, because you know a lot of times when you play well individually or collectively, or you have a great quarter or you hit a bunch of investments, what happens? People get complacent.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get complacent, you know, that leads to failure.
Yep.
Because you start to relax. You start to, you know, your work ethic, your edge goes down. You're not as focused on what should happen. And then the same thing when you have failures, what people's general tendency is to get discouraged. Yeah, I don't know. This, you know, and so you're either complacent or you're discouraged. And neither place is an emotional state that drives success. Yep. And so it's how do you have things that when everything's spinning around you, you can keep grounded to, hold on to, because at the end of the day, it's always about how do you move forward. Good things are going to happen. You got to be able to press on.
That's right.
Bad things are going to happen, maybe terrible things. You got to be able to absorb it and press on. If you're going to have a sustainable program, sustainable organization, you got to be able to handle success, handle failure without riding the roller coaster. Goes back to that calm endurance.
And go back to the embracing the growth mindset too. I think it doesn't say it's fun to embrace the mindset, right? And I tell my kids this. I tell, you know, we talk about other successful people. Embracing the growth mindset doesn't mean it's always going to be fun. Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly hard to come in every day, and you talked about it. You know, we always talk about reset to zero. Mm-hmm. You know, beginner's mindset. Come to work every day. I mean, look, the reality is there's two types of people in life that are consistent, and it's the elite or the ones that are the worst of the worst. You know, I mean, the team that goes, you know, 2-30, like they're consistent. Now they're consistently bad, but they are consistent. And the team that goes 30-2,
yeah,
and those are the exceptions. We talked about to be exceptional, you have to be an exception. You got to be different than everybody else.
Like
and inside of exceptional is exception. If you're going to be exceptional, you got to be willing to do the things. So that's the ability to reset to zero, the ability not to take too much. Again, you're human. You're going to have human nature. You win, you're going to feel like we conquered it. You lost, you're going to be discouraged. The ability to reset yourself to zero, to come back in, to look at it with beginner's eyes, to have that beginner mindset, and then go back to work and prepare as well as you can. And we talk about anything you want to be great at. To me, you have to stack into it. Right? Like you want to be great in business, you got to stack into it. You want to be a great player, you know, so this is the way we talk about it with our guys.
Stack into it, meaning like habit stacking.
Habit stacking. So like to win a game, you have to stack possessions. Yeah. You know, you play an average game is about 150 possessions. The team that stacks the most possessions wins the game. You know, so if you start stacking possessions, you can win games. You start stacking games, you can stack a couple weeks, maybe you stack a couple months. All of a sudden, if you keep stacking, you stack a season. You start stacking seasons, you can stack a career. But all starts with stacking individual possessions. So and the ability to do that occurs in practice. And it's like, you know, we tell our guys, like, you build your muscles in practice, you flex your muscles in competition. Right? Like you can't be a bodybuilder, never lift.
Right.
Like it would not be good for me to go out, take my shirt off, put on a Speedo and go pose.
Like here I am.
Look at this. Look at the, you know, because I haven't done the work.
Yeah.
Now, if I took, 6 months and I, did whatever the max I could do, but you can't flex your muscles in competitions if you haven't built them in practice. Yeah. And so the ability to go out, stack days, and you stack in, that's how you become a great player, you stack into it. You become a great team, you stack into it. There's going to be hurdles presented to you as a player, as an organization, as a sports team, and then you're going to have these obstacles stacked that you're going to have to then figure out a way to clear. Regression and friction are okay. We need those to grow. Like to become a great team, we can't just practice. We're going to need competition. And then the competition is going to give us a mirror and show us where we're good, where we're weak, what we got to do to get better. And then we have to overcome whatever those obstacles, if we're good, teams are going to start game planning for us. They're going to start trying to take things away. They're going to take things away from us individually, collectively. How do we then, okay, they did that. Now here's our response to that. Okay, now there's another response to what we did, and you're constantly clearing these things. You got to win on the road. You got to win in tough environments. You got to overcome adversity. You got to do all these things to become a great team. It doesn't happen, with a snap of your fingers. But that's where, like, the ability to stack in to whatever you want to do in life to be great. We believe organizationally, you stack into that. You stack days. You win games by stacking possessions. Compete together, compete present, stack it. And that's what we try to do every single time we put the jersey on is we try to build our habits in practice so we have the muscles to flex when we get inside the competition, on the wood, inside those four lines where there's nowhere to hide.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I call it Focus 90, where I always say the first 90 minutes of my day are critically important, right? If I can win that 90 minutes, I can win the day. Right. Win the next day, win a week, another week, a month, a quarter, right? Everything you just said. I talk about it all the time. It's totally true. Yes. How do you, in today's world? I don't want to get on the bandwagon, the NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff, but you've got the locker room, right? And you've got to embrace accountability, and you got to embrace empathy. Yep. Right. How do you balance the two of those in the world we live in today, where they may not want accountability?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had so many people ask me, like, how do I coach differently now than I did when I started or in this? And the honest answer is I don't. I don't. I'm never going to coach on eggshells. I tell these guys all the time. You can say a lot of things on me as a coach. You'll never say I'm scared. Yeah. I'm not scared to hold guys accountable. I'm not scared to coach them. I'm not scared to our best players. To me, they get the most minutes, the most touches. They have the most responsibility. They also get coached the hardest. It would make no sense for me to coach the 15th guy harder than I coach the first or second guy, because those first or second guys or third guys, they drive winning a heck of a lot more than the guy who's on the end of the bench. Now, if they're not cheering or not good culture, then they're not working at the right level, we're going to coach them as well. But we're going to hold guys accountable. I think players want accountability. I think that the good ones do. And the reality is, if you're honest with people and you treat people right, and they know that, like, I think this with coaches, I think players, and this is all levels, NBA, college, I've found this to be true. If they think you care, outside of just, this is 99% of players, if they think you care and they truly think that it's not just a transactional deal, but you care about them individually and their individual dreams and desires and what they want, and that you care about them as a human being outside of just the sport. If they believe that you are trustworthy, that they can take what you say to the bank. Like, you tell them something, you're never telling them something and telling somebody else something different, or you're never telling them something that, isn't true. And then the last piece is, if they think you're competent, if they think you can help them individually and the group collectively become the best version of itself, because they need both. Right. They need to maximize themselves individually, and then they need the team to win to get the things they want. I think players will do what you ask, but you better have those three things. You better genuinely care. You better be a person of your word. You better carry yourself in a way that, we always say the best way to get what you want in life is to deserve it. You want to be trusted, be trustworthy, right? Yeah. You want to be successful, deserve success. Like, do the things, the best way to get what you want is to deserve what you want. So you have to build that trust, and then you better be competent. You better have the answers to the test. Players want to know, and if you don't have the answers, then there's not a level of respect. You might care and you might be trustworthy, but if you're not competent and you can't help them individually or the group collectively, you better be able to do both to maximize yourself. Then I think players will tune you out, or guys may be like, if you can do those things, man, I think players will run through a wall for you. And there's a level of, you can, I think coaching, to me, at its essence, is teaching. People come to a practice, they're always amazed that I'm not, screaming and yelling and going crazy on the guys. But I don't know, you would do that in a classroom, right? If a guy got a math problem wrong, you wouldn't be, berating him or degrading him for getting it wrong. You would, to me as a teacher, it's my job to teach them to do it. And if they're not doing it right, It's on me to figure out a better way to teach, a way to communicate, a way to help them get it. Is it? Do we have to do film? Do we have to walk through? And how do I help them? And I think, you know, you're as a coach, you're toggling between, you know, teaching and psychologist, and teacher, psychologist are the two hats you wear, and you're constantly trying to, how do I teach? How do I get these guys to do the things? Because it's not about what I know. It's about what they know, and not just what they know, but what they can do well. You know, that's what coaching is. Teaching is not what the teacher knows. It's what the students know, and the students can show that they know well enough and do well, right? So end of the day, that's how I judge it, you know, and so I've not coached any differently. I always, you know, it's important to me because I think we talk about this with recruits. Like, I never promise anything other than culture. I say you're going to be in an amazing culture with great people, and you're going to have a work environment that's going to allow you to be the best version of yourself. And to me, that work environment, a lot of things in life that are really good are paradoxical in nature. So to me, it's like I want guys to walk on the court and in the film room and feel like, man, this is incredibly demanding. Yeah. There's such high standards and level of detail every day. It's so hard, and yet it's encouraging and supportive and optimistic, because I don't think people can be their best versions when it's pessimistic, when it's negative, when you're beating guys down for not getting it. But I also don't think they can be their best version if, you know, you're there as a cheerleader or as an emotional support coach. Like, there has to be standards, there has to be demands, there has to be a level of detail that people have to hit, and you have to hold them accountable to do that. But, you know, so I think that's, you know, we talk about that, you know, we want to have a work environment. And to me, that ability to balance that paradox, to have incredibly high demands, to have standards, to be detailed, and to be encouraging, supportive, and guys know, man, I'm loved. This is, and hey, we're not getting it yet, but we're going to get it. That optimistic versus pessimistic, I think you need that to have guys become the best versions of themselves.
Cool thing is, these guys were talking about it while we were getting ready for you. They were talking about the office culture right here, which I think is great, right?
Same, yep.
Let me throw out some stats here that I saw. So last year, these are the records you broke. 3-pointers made in school history, 333. 2-point field goal percentage at 60%. True shooting at 58.5%, effective field goal percentage 56.5%, and the only program in the country with 2 players with over 100 3-point shots made. Mm-hmm. First year, St. Louis University, men's basketball. Talk about that. Why are you capable of doing that so quickly, and what can we expect in the coming years?
Yeah, I think you know, everything comes back to players. You know, coaching is like leadership in business, the same thing, right? You're completely dependent upon the talent and character of the people that you recruit, hire, whatever it is you're doing, right? Like at the end of the day, you can do whatever. You have a role, but you know, and coaching to me is making sure the best coaches in any sport, sum is always greater than the individual parts. Like that in its essence is coaching. How do you get a group where the sum is greater than the individual parts to play together in a way that amplifies and compounds each other? And you know, last year's group, I think there'll be, you know, when we came in, there was some hype around that team, and we really, you know, we did what we could in a pretty short window. We got here in April. Yeah. We had 2 players on the team, and starting April 8th, we had 2 guys on the team. Had to hire a staff, had to schedule 12 games, sign 11 players, raise a ton of money, and we went to work. And man, you know, we were really pleased with, you know, what we did. It didn't go, you know, nobody would say, man, we signed up to go, you know, finish 5th in the A10 and get to the NIT. But to me, when I and everybody's entitled to their opinion, I look at last year and I will always reflect on it incredibly positively, because that group gave me everything they had. I mean, we had an incredibly high character locker room. We absorbed 4 guys basically going out for the season by December 1st. We had to unredshirt 2 of our players. We went to San Francisco to play them with 7 guys on the team. Wow. And we unredshirted a couple to get to 9. You know, and most of those 9, or, you know, whatever, 4 of them were true freshmen. You know, we were last in the country in
bench
minutes.
Which is rare.
It's rare. I mean, last in the country in bench minutes, last in the country in bench scoring. The seeds that those guys laid will blossom. in time. And, when I was at LMU my first year, we won 14 games. I told those guys, I said, when we win it and we're going to win a championship here, you guys will get rings. And we did 2 years later in my third year, and we did. And my second year at Indiana State, that group, I told them the same thing. I said that you guys laid, first year wasn't anything like this. It was just a terrible year all the way around. Second year, we went from 11 wins to 23. And I told that group, I said, hey, we're going to get this done. And when we do, and the next year we did, and they got, I sent championship rings to Kalix and Coop and Cam and those guys and the same thing at LMU. And so, Gibson Jimerson playing through the end of the year with an ankle that was, the size of a grapefruit and all discolored because he was playing 38 minutes a game in that thing. Isaiah Swope not able to practice because had knee surgery. His knee was all, swollen and could only practice the day before a game, and even then sometimes couldn't. Him playing 30 minutes a game, Robbie playing through 10 to 9. Those guys and the amount of miracle wins they had to get to the NIT, to get to the postseason, to get to, what was incredible. So I will always reflect on the 24-25 St. Louis Billikens with an unbelievable amount of respect and pride, because that team, for what it had, gave us everything it could have. And I think, it put us in position to really increase our talent level, which we did. Mm-hmm. Being here, we were done this year with our recruiting class by I think April 13th. We started on April 8th last year. So we had 11 guys to get on April 13th. We were done this year, same time.
Well, you got to build a culture that quick with them and personalities.
Yeah, and the whole thing is just you're figuring out a new way of doing things. There's different dynamics at St. Louis and there were at Indiana State, like there was when I went from LMU to Indiana State. And not better or worse, it's different. Yeah. And you're having to establish a culture. And the three worst years I've had, 14 wins my first year when I was at LMU, 11 at Indiana State my first year, and then 19 here. Those are the 3 seasons as a head coach we haven't won 20 plus. And they were my first years at everywhere. And some of that is you can't transpose culture. Sure. And when people hear that, they say, well, was there not a culture before? Of course there was culture before. It just is their culture. It's not our culture. Yeah. I never look at things as better or worse. Different just means different. Different doesn't make it that, the culture we have is better than the culture that was here before or at Indiana State or whatever the case may be. It's just what we think our culture needs to be, what our values are, what our standards are. And we now have, instead of having 2 guys and Robbie and Isaiah that know what we're doing, we have 5 returners from last year. We hit it out of the park. We think portal, high school guys. We have, a team that has the talent and the depth and the character to certainly have a very, very special season. But it's like we talked about earlier, we know we don't deal in expectation, we deal in possibilities, right? Because it's about what's possible. Because it's certainly possible that if we don't do the work, that we're not going to be very good. If we have a rash of injuries or if, whatever could happen. And as we all know, there's tons of unforeseen things that happen during any season. You have to handle those and overcome those. And, and it's certainly possible if we do the right things, if guys accept roles, if guys can handle ambition versus agenda, have ambition without an agenda, if guys can have the calm endurance, all the things we talk about, that we could have a very special year that would be one of the, in a program that has a lot of history and tradition, one that I think will be very, very memorable for our fans and people in the community.
I love it. Last time I was in this general area and somebody was talking about having a special year, it was St. Louis Blues, and they won the Stanley Cup.
There we go. That would be. Listen, I hope some of that mojo rubs off me, the vibes.
Right? Yeah, we're just right up the road.
Right down the road. No, it's you as a coach when you have the possibility. Now, if you would ask me last year this time, I didn't think we had enough of the things. And then when we lost 4 guys, certainly, you're struggling to keep your head above water. And again, what those guys did to get us there, amazing. But we're in a much better situation. We're certainly going to miss Gib and Isaiah. But the collective, which is what basketball is greater. And yeah, the possibility exists that we can have a year that people will talk about for a very long period of time. But again, we're gonna have to overcome all those things, those hurdles, that resistance, that friction, that all great teams to become great have to address hit and then find a way through.
Yep. You mentioned it very briefly earlier, raising money. Talk about that, the importance of, our mutual friend, Ryan Luchtefeld, who got this going. People like him, people in the St. Louis community, the businesses in St. Louis. How important is that to you as a leader of an organization right now?
That's incredibly important. I mean, this climate, this era, it's impossible to function without a thriving NIL. I don't think, this is, people get all, the old day, at the end of the day, the dying words of every business that goes bankrupt that was once successful is, but that's the way we've always done it, right? As they're going out of business,
that's right.
But that's the way we did it 10 years ago. Well, things evolve, and you adapt to them, or you get left behind. And we have to adapt, and we're going to need the whole community to rally around us in whatever capacity it is. There's, from fundraising, from the fans who don't give money but buy season tickets and come out and cheer and support, to the people that don't do that, but man, they're watching at home, or whatever the case may be. Certainly in this era, you got to have as many people pulling the rope in the same direction as possible. Yeah. Success doesn't happen in a vacuum. We got to do our part. We got to recruit great guys. We have to work every day to build habits and to have a great team and to get them to play together. Fans got to do their part. Supporters, donors, people with capacity have to do their part, because ultimately, it's not about, at St. Louis, it's not enough to recruit a great team. I think to win here, I think there's three different ways in the modern era here with the NIL and transport to build a program. I think you can renovate every single year. Just say, hey, we got a 1 year window with this team. End of the year, we're just going to bring in a whole new team and do that every single year. It's a way. I'm not saying it's the right way, but it's a way.
Sure.
I think you can modify every year. Maybe try to, keep a couple guys and bring in a lot of new, half and half or so. And then I think the third way is to build a program, and the old school way. And I think for us, it's the way I know best. It's what we did at LMU. We kept everybody 5 years. We redshirted them. It's, if you don't have bottomless resources, there's programs that have huge resources. There's programs in our league that have huge resources that are separated from, us and other places that are investing incredible amounts of money in the NIL space. If you don't have those bottomless resources, you've got to do a great job, and your pathway is through continuity. Continuity will allow you, we call it corporate knowledge.
Yeah.
Corporate knowledge will allow you to have guys grow inside your system, guys develop. There's a level of just that comes with year over year.
Well, the fans get to know them, right?
Yeah, fans get to know them, but they get to, everybody says, get old, stay old. But where they're missing is getting old together, shared experiences, right? Like accumulated mileage is a big deal.
Yes.
And if you have bottomless resources, you just go out and buy a brand new team every year and spend, crazy amounts of money on it, then maybe it's less important. But here, in our situation, if we don't have continuity, if we're not able to retain our best players and able to, that's multifaceted. They've got to feel like they have a great culture. They got to feel like there's great development for them. They got to feel like we can win at the highest levels. We got to do all those things internally. Yep. Then the external is there's got to be a mutual commitment institutionally, which goes back to the fundraising piece, a mutual commitment institutionally to them. And they got to have a commitment, to the institution to want to stay. And so all those factors tie together. But that's the pathway for us to compete at the highest level nationally, to compete not just for A-10 championships, but in the NCAA tournament and advancing and getting to the second weekend and beyond. The only pathway that I see for that is that we're able to retain our best players, and there's a lot of people that have to work together to make that happen. I think St. Louis basketball, Billiken basketball being great isn't just great for us. It's not just great for the school. I think it's great for the city.
Absolutely.
When it's rocking and when we get this thing rolling, it's not just going to be great for SLU or SLU basketball or institutionally, it'll help in enrollment in all kinds of different areas, retention, fundraising, all those things. It's going to be great for the city of St. Louis.
100%.
And, so I hope that people see that, and there's a little bit of a 10,000 foot view of, this is not just good for this, little, this little myopic space, but it's actually good, widespread, and there's going to be a lot of widespread positivity for our city if this becomes what we think it can become.
Well, and you're going to see a fun product too, right? Your style of basketball, which is what I love. It's not this boring basketball game, right? You're going to have some energy, and it's a great spot. I mean, right behind us over here, it's a great spot. It's not a bad seat in the house, so people need to get over here and check it out.
Yeah, so you got to win, you got to entertain. I mean, that's the deal. Absolutely. I mean, it's both. I think if you win and you're boring, it's hard to get it. And if you're really entertaining but you're losing, no one cares. Right. So it's the needle of you have to really win at a high level and you got to entertain, and that's our goal. I said at my first press conference, and we will do that. I think we were entertaining last year. I think we'll be more entertaining. We won last year. I think we'll win a lot more. We have a chance to, certainly, and we're excited about where we are in 25, 26, but also, we think our trajectory is on a really significant upswing.
Love it. What do you do to recharge and stay grounded outside of basketball?
Yeah, I'm it's hard. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm very, very basketball oriented. My family, my son is a walk on the team. My younger son, my older son is, he lives at home. He has like special needs, and so he and I have a great relationship. Yeah. I do stuff with him. My wife is great. She'll grab me, make sure I go for a walk. I love to travel. Obviously, love to eat. So a great meal, friends, travel. But there's not like I don't golf or I love basketball. I'm just like one of our players. I'm obsessed with how I can get better. Yeah. Pursuing progress. Where can I become a better coach? What stones are unturned for me? And this, I found early in my career, if I prioritized my family and gave this job everything I had, did it to the best of my abilities, it really didn't leave me a whole lot of time for like, man, I'm, what else am I going to do? There's really nothing else.
Golf. Yeah, it's pretty hard to do that, right?
Yeah, no, there's just not enough time if you really at least for me, now maybe other people are different, but for me, if I was going to prioritize my family and try to be as good a husband, father as possible, and I was going to do the job to the very best of my ability with as demanding as it is in all these different areas, there wasn't a whole lot. Like, I know I have a country club membership here, but I've never been, in 16 months. It's they may cancel that now that
Right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe
scratch that, Chris.
Yeah, scratch that. I don't know what they're paying for it, but I've not been. So, so I think it's like, I've played golf once in 16 months. You're focused on those things, and every second that I'm not doing something with my wife and kids, I'm focused on this. But I do get enjoyment of. I enjoy getting up every single day. I'm incredibly passionate about the team and about what I do, and I enjoy it. There's it's a job that is one that like I would have done. I did when I was younger for free, and it's something that I love the aspect of coaching. I just enjoy it. So I wake up every day invigorated for it. But my biggest thing, if I'm doing something non-basketball, you'll see me. I went to a movie the other night with my son, my older son. He wanted to see the Fantastic Four, so we went and did dinner and did that. I'm doing something with my younger son, or I'm with Natalia. She's big into walking, hiking, doing stuff, and then we travel and we do stuff, get away. It's that recharges my batteries, and spending time with them, keeps me, I found that, like all of us, the sources of peace and contentment in our lives are the things that are unconditional. Yep. And, those things keep me full.
All right. Some quick questions here. So you just talked about traveling, beach or mountain?
Beach, both if I can.
Right.
But
you had
definitely,
to choose one beach.
If I had to choose one beach, yeah.
All right. First concert.
Actually, I was just last year. I went to Fish.
I heard this.
I went to Fish.
There's a funny story around this.
I brought my computer. Well, I've never been to a concert, so I didn't know what to expect. Talks about, I don't have many hobbies.
Right.
I've now been to two because I saw Keith Urban. Was here at Chaffetz. So both my concerts been at Chaffetz. But I brought my computer and I was working upstairs. My brother thought it was hilarious. But I was also, if you've ever been to a Fish concert, it's quite, quite the experience. I was, I think I thankfully they didn't drug test me anytime the next week or two, just from secondary smoke up there. But it was, I found out that that's a typical for a Fish concert. My brother is a huge fan, and we're very opposite in a lot of ways, but he is like followed them on tour. He's going to another one of their concerts. So he is as big a Fish fan as there is.
So you got to take him.
Yeah,
I heard there's a picture maybe that got out of you watching game film at a concert.
Yeah, he put a picture of me watching film. I didn't even know he took a picture. I was up there. You know, I went for him. So the music to me was just background noise. I was up there working. It was a chance for me. Locked in watching film, and I heard the music in the background. I smelt the fans, and that was it.
I love it. All right, so you got to do one of these three things. You got to make a 6-foot putt. I'm gonna give you $1 million, but you got to make the 6-foot putt, a penalty kick in soccer, or a 15-yard field goal. What are we doing?
Oof. Who's the goalie?
Great question.
You know, it depends who the goalie is. If it's a bad goalie,
it's Luchtefeld and Troy. You know, those two tall guys.
It's on there too. They're too good. I'm going to go with a 15-foot field goal, a 15-yard field goal. I'm going to go with 15-yard field goal. I think I can knock that in. Never tried it, but I've seen my putting. So,
that's not working.
Yeah, if the greens are unless it's just like mini golf where it's straight on, I'd be in trouble. So, and if it's Luchtefeld or Troy in the goal, too tall, too athletic. So I'm going with the field goal from 15 yards.
I've seen Ryan play kickball before, though. I think you're going to be all right. You'll be just fine.
Make him guess wrong.
That's right. Morning person or a night owl?
A little bit of both. I get up pretty early. But I usually, if I can't a lot of days, but if I can, I nap during the day, like a 25-minute nap, and then I usually can stay up late and I get up early, and then that nap in the middle of the day kind of recharges me. So I'm pretty much both. You'll find me up at 12:31 a.m. and usually up by 6:30, in the morning. But that nap, that 25-30-minute nap midday, kind of bridges the gap. Yeah,
keeps you going. Look in that camera right over here, one of these cameras, and give a little message to the fans. Again, I know we talked about this, but what's the message to get people here? Let's win some baseball. Let's win some basketball games this year and have some fun.
No, I just hope, look, we're super excited. One of the big things we came here was to, and I really want to do is build a program that our fans, our supporters can be proud of. And with how we compete, the kind of guys we have, the way we go about it, the class with which we operate with as a program. And, I think we got a group that'll represent this city well. I think we got a group that ties together with who we are, what I've found St. Louis to be, hardworking, blue collar, embracing diversity, a group that is going to lay it all on the line. Nothing given. We got to go earn it. But I think you'll find a lot of what makes St. Louis special will be translatable traits for our basketball team. So super excited. We got 10 non-conference home games. We'll play 10 times here between November 3rd and December 31st. So plenty of chance to come out and get us. And then, of course, the A-10 is going to be stacked. But we need, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. We need everybody. If it's going to be what it can become, we need Shea Fitz to be the best home court advantage in the A-10. And we know we got to come in and we got to play in a way that earns that. We're not, just asking for handouts. But I think when fans come out, they'll find a group they can really wrap their arms around, a group that represents this city and what this city is about, the essence of who we are. And I think they'll find a group that they can really rally around and support. So excited to see everybody. November 3rd starts it off. Southeast Missouri at home. 5-game stretch at home to start. We go to California for 3, then back here for 5 more. Wow. So it's a ton of chance to see your Billikens play, and it's going to be a heck of a journey. Look forward to everybody kind of walking that path with us, and it's going to be like I said, I can't wait to get started.
I love it. Last question, or really more of a comment, but the food scene. You said you like food, so the food scene here is a little different than Terre Haute. I know, and this is not a knock on Terre Haute. I grew up 40 minutes from Terre Haute, so I used to go catch a couple of games. Yep. Was the Boston Connection? Is that what it was called? Is it still there?
That's not there anymore. They've made a couple different places, but
I loved that place. I get to Boston, go. They had a half-court basketball.
Everybody talked about the Boston Connection. It was
amazing.
Yeah, gone before I got there. Terre Haute had some. It was a good food scene. It was less. You had you had Jake Ford's and Stables, and they had great sushi there. Umi, I know everybody's going to say there's no way they had good sushi in Terre Haute, but I will recommend anybody in Terre Haute or in the surrounding area. Umi sushi was fantastic, and but no, there was good food, but the Boston Connection was gone. But yeah, St. Louis is a whole different level. Just the.
You got your spot yet?
I got a few spots. Yeah. I mean, I and then every time I do this, I always leave somebody out, and somebody gets pissed.
Yes. so you don't
that
name names. You just get your spots.
There is the thing here, obviously, is how good the Italian is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, and we do a ton, whether it's, Cafe Napoli, Charlie Gito's, we Il Palato. I mean, we're all over the place. Paul Mano's, Lorenzo's. I mean, there's so many good spots, Dominic. I mean, we could go through a list of 15 to 20. There's great sushi in town, which I enjoy. Sato, Nobu, Oishi by my house. There's the gamut. I think what makes this place, it's a great foodie town, and I'm always out. That's one of my relaxations, going out, eating with the family. Great food, great wine. And if you have great company, it makes it even better. And there's just that's been. We've really loved, Natalia and I both. We've settled into our house, getting recruiting done early in April. Probably gave us the first chance to really explore the city. And, one of the reasons we came here was, we had a bunch of people we knew that either had lived here or do live here. Oh, cool. And it was crazy that not a single person was like, Everybody that either was here and left or was here and stayed raved about St. Louis. And everything they said is true. It somehow blends, this big city. You have all this culture and all this diversity and all these different things you can do. But it still feels like a small town. And there's still great Midwestern people. And the values are still, people are nice. It doesn't feel like the hustle and bustle. I grew up in New York. It doesn't feel like that. It's just this incredible blend of, big city and small town at the same time with fantastic people. And it's been awesome. And I can't wait for the season, the upcoming months, and to share in all this that's about to happen with our fans and this community, because they deserve it. Like I said, that's a big part of this was, we want to give them a program they can really be proud of. Our fan base deserves that. And we're going to do everything we can to deliver on that.
I love it. Josh Schertz, thanks so much for being on the Circuit of Success. I know you'd rather be coaching basketball right now, but you're here with me, so we really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to seeing you. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely.